right, it looks like we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion. We're going to get started in just a minute, but while we wait for the stragglers to join in, maybe they're getting coffee or something, let's go ahead and get things started with a fun icebreaker type of poll question just to kind of get the juices flowing and, get ready for the holiday season. And to do that, let's go ahead and ask this poll. And it is, do you use a real or artificial Christmas tree if you are celebrating Christmas? And this one I've always thought was really interesting. Growing up, you always seem to have those friends that are split between real and fake and your own. Like for me, I've always been the artificial tree. I think that's, I don't really know. I don't know if I've ever actually used a real tree. Trista, are you guys real or artificial?
We use an artificial one so that we can store it and then grab it back the next year.
Yeah. And it's what I like is that you don't have to worry about the lights because it's already in there, and then dealing with the needles I couldn't imagine. But I do miss that. I do think that I would enjoy that Christmas tree piney smell in the house. I think that would just kind of add to the Christmas spirit sometimes. Alrighty, so let's see where we're at. Let me check the attendees, see how many we're at. Awesome. All right, so we got some names coming in. Cool. We've got a couple of familiar ones as well. That's good to see. Awesome. Oh, Paige, yep, I know you. Welcome back. It's good to see you. Hopefully you got some good questions to ask us today. Yeah, and while we wait for these results, I'm just going to give it a few more seconds. Be sure to ask questions. We're here live, and we are here to answer your questions. We want to provide as much value to you guys as possible during this presentation. And to do that, we want to answer your questions. What are some of the challenges that you're going through? What are some questions about Google Business Messages or connecting with those leads as fast as you can and converting them into customers and keeping them as customers by offering great customer service through communications and all kinds of great stuff. And we're going to dig into all of that as well. So let's go ahead and see what the results are, because this is actually one I've been really interested in as we were planning this webinar. Oh, wow. Okay, so 78%. Nearly 79% of people here are using artificial trees. And, I think that just comes down to the convenience and how easy it is. You just pack it up. You never have to worry about going and getting another one. And I think especially if you're, I think if I were to use a real one, I'd want to do it the real way and go out and chop it down and do the whole, what is the Griswolds where they chop down that 40-foot tree. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. And before we really dive into the topic, I wanted to go through some housekeeping stuff and make sure everybody's familiar with the dashboard that we have here. And so if you are an audience member looking at your screen, you should see a few windows open on your dashboard. And some of these things are really cool. So on the top left, you should see myself and our wonderful guest, Trista, who I will introduce in just a second. Then you should also see the Q&A section, and that is titled Ask Question. And that is where you can actually submit your questions for us to answer live here in the presentation. If you just have a comment or, maybe it's just a side thing, or if you just want to let us know where you're tuning in from, you can do that in the attendee chat. And that's more like a comment section where you guys can interact with each other, provide suggestions, ask questions even if you want to as well. We'll look at both for that. And that should be where you can find that. And then on the far right, you should see a little teal or turquoise looking window for an access, that gives you access to a Birdeye demo, so you can kind of see how, our tools in action. It's a really cool demo. It's free to access, and just gives you that little bit more insight. And then obviously in the big window in the middle, you can see your slides, and you can use that to take notes and things like that. And just a heads up that this webinar is being recorded, and you can access it at a later date. Once the webinar is done and the recording is processed, you'll get an email with a link to watch it, and you can expect that to come in tomorrow. So just a heads up on that. If you do have to go early, or if there's something else that comes up, you will be able to finish the presentation or finish watching it once we get you that link. Now, on the last window, you should see something that says related content. And this is really cool because we're able to provide you guys with some really, really interesting pieces of content that I think is super valuable. And the first one is the State of Search in 2023. That is a webinar that I'm going to be having next month in January with SEO experts Steve Wiedemann and Ben Fisher. It's a continuation of our local search expert series where we dive into all things SEO, Google, how to maximize your online presence as a business and show up on that first page of Google and really, establish yourself as a strong local presence online. Next, we have the 4 parts to our Reviews to Revenue Masterclass series. That's where we dive into all things online reputation, whether it's getting more reviews, increasing your star rating, managing the reviews and all of that, whether you have 1 location or 1,000, and how can you manage all of that data and all of those things, and how can you set up a really strong and consistent online reputation strategy. We cover that in all 4 of those parts, and those are really, really great discussions. We've got people from all kinds of different industries offering their insights, and some really, some intelligent experts as well. And then the last thing is you can follow us on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn is awesome. We post content every day of, whether it's marketing blogs, tips, tricks. You'll see live streams of us where we interview with experts in different industries and fields, and we pick their brains on how to really improve, your overall digital marketing and your marketing experience for your customers online. Now, so let's keep moving. And the next thing I'd like to do is welcome our wonderful guest, Trista Wade. She is tuning in from us from New York, and she comes to us from Google. And I'm really excited to have you here, Trista. And so how are you doing today? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
For sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. I am just super excited to be here with you all today and really be able to share about Google Business Messages and especially how it can be leveraged for our financial services industry.
Awesome. So can you tell us more about your experience and your role at Google?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about my background. I began my career actually in financial services here in New York, working with hedge funds. I did that for a few years at a Wall Street bank, then transitioned to the tech space, working mostly in relationship management, a little bit of marketing. Then I did a quick stint down in DC, got my MBA at Georgetown University, and came right back up here to New York to join Google. I've been at Google for over 3 years now, and while I'm a little bit newer to this team, it is such an exciting opportunity to be able to really marry together my financial services, my relationship management, my marketing expertise, and really help us build out partnerships around business messages.
That's incredible. And it sounds like your experience, your expertise is perfectly tailored for this conversation. And I'm really, really happy that you're here and thankful that you're here, and you're able to provide your insights into how our audience and these local businesses, especially in the financial services sector and the insurance industry, can maximize Google Business Messages. And I think we're going to have some really good insights from you. I think we're going to get some great questions from our audience. So feel free to submit those questions at any time. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. And if we are not able to get to all of them, we're going to reach out and have someone, email you with an answer, because we want to make sure that we can provide as much value to you guys as possible. Now, let's go ahead and get started, and let's take a look at what we're actually going to be covering today. And from this perspective, the perspective that we're going to be approaching today's discussion is going to be from the financial services and insurance industries. But the tips, the best practices, the advice, the insights that we're going to provide for you can be applied to any type of business and any type of industry. So if you're not in the financial services or insurance industries, don't worry. This is all going to be applicable to you as well. That's just going to be the language that we're going to be speaking in today. So let's go over the agenda. And the first thing is we're going to have a Google Business Messages overview. We're going to talk a little bit more about what it is, how it works, and why it's important. We're going to talk about why Google Business Messages is even a thing, and what brought that up, and talking about the consumer behavior that led to that, and the shifts in the way that people are buying and researching products and services have shifted to the point where Google Business Messages is necessary. Then we're going to talk about why this specifically is the answer for some of the problems that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to automate Google Business Messages and how that can help you manage all those conversations and basically put this process on autopilot a little bit. It's going to be really cool. And then next, we're going to go over some success stories, because it's all great when you can talk about it in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? And it does. And so we're going to talk about that. And Trista's going to give us some stories of some businesses that were able to do that and are doing it. And then we're going to go over some tips and things like that on how to maximize Google Business Messages, and then we're going to go into our Q&A session. So let's dive right in, and let me shift the slides, and let's go with the Google Business Messages overview. So what is it? Put simply, it's a messaging channel that enables users to engage with businesses in helpful one-on-one conversations in their moments of need, straight from the Google services people know and love. But we know that it's so much more than that. It's not just a simple thing. Trista, can you give us a deeper look into what Google Business Messages is?
Absolutely. So you're really spot on. It is really a tool for those helpful one-on-one conversations. And at Google, we understand that our search engine is really a part of some key moments for users. Roughly 70% of online experiences begin with a search engine. Users are turning to Google for certain moments, and we call these our I want to know, I want to go, I want to do moments. And so that is why we have created business messages to be a part of our users' journey, to ensure that we're really supporting them along their way of being able to find out the questions to their most pressing answers, and being able to use that to marry businesses with the users.
Awesome. And that reminds me of something that Ben Fisher and Steve Wiedemann, the people that are maybe having on for our next webinar in January, they've talked to me a little bit about in our past webinars, and they said that businesses kind of need to shift their thought process in the way that they think they approach Google, and they need to think about it more in terms of what is that user intending to accomplish with their search. And so sorry, I'm a little bit lost because I'm trying to word this correctly, and I want to make sure that I can say it clearly. But they said that businesses need to shift their focus to the searcher's intent, such as those I want to XYZ, I want to do, I want to know, I want to find moments that you had talked about a little bit. And that's because consumer behavior and their expectations have shifted. So let's dig into that. Can you talk a little bit more to the search intent?
Absolutely. So consumer behavior has really begun to shift, and users want access to answers and clarification even more quickly than ever before. So really this leaves businesses responsible for meeting consumers or not meeting consumers in their moment of need. What we found is that businesses spend about $1.3 trillion on over 260 billion customer service calls in an effort to meet users. But we're finding that more users actually want to be able to message. So 50% of consumers are more likely to engage with or shop at a business that offers chat. And over 60% would switch to a company that offers chat. So when you look at the way that businesses are currently engaging, but you look at the consumer shift in intent, you really do have to meet your consumers where they are versus where the business feels more comfortable.
Interesting. And consumer behavior is something that does change and evolve over time quite a bit. And I want to dig in just a little bit more into that. And there's for a variety of reasons, such as technology advancement, cultural shifts, economic impacts, or just, the buyer expectations and what they expect from a business and the experience that they're expecting to receive. So how has consumer behavior changed to a point where Google Business Messages is something that every agent or, financial services agency needs to implement into their strategy?
For sure. And I spoke about it a little bit before about those moments that I want to know, go, do, and get moments. And they're really a reflection of consumer behavior and their needs. Again, people are chatting more, they're calling less, and they're turning to searches to help them find the resources to help them make informed financial decisions. So, for instance, what's the right investment for me? What's the best insurance? We found that about 30% of U.S. financial services consumers across all age groups are looking for expert advice. That means that they're seeking out our insurance brands. They're seeking out these financial institutions because they really have these moments where they want expert advice. They're connecting through Google, and now the expectation is for businesses to be able to connect with them in those moments. And thinking a little bit more about chat, if we think about, our typical day, if we were to pause here and take a look at our phones, and if you really just think about it, we're messaging so much more on a daily basis than we're calling. We're all using chat functionality. And with consumers, that's the expectation that they're having as well. They want their information search to mimic their real lives. So they're expecting that simplicity, speed, and convenience. And so with business messages, it's our new modern way to help businesses stand out from their competitors and meet their consumers in those moments.
Mhm. And that's really interesting, and I think that shift is going to continue to move in that direction. To the and we might already be at the point where consumers just expect to be able to message with businesses already. Where it's not a cool new novelty thing; it's something that they expect every business to be able to do nowadays. Just given the variety of different channels and the communication methods that people can have with a business now, whether that's booking something online, scheduling a demo, or anything like that. And so I think we're going to continue to see that shift into that direction. So what challenges has this presented to businesses, if any?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, we're seeing that a lot of these challenges were actually existing challenges, but they're really just becoming more pronounced. So, how are you able to stand out online? And one way to do so is to be a first mover with new technology. How to find and qualify leads more efficiently. Do you have a seamless engagement process that allows you to do so quickly? Growing competition, again, finding compelling ways to be able to stand out that really remove barriers between you and your customers. And finally, adopting to the shifts in consumer behavior. And with that, are you taking on the new marketing techniques that are going to allow you to really excel in this digital first environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I think that these challenges really kind of hit the nail right on the head. As the world moves more digitally, as we move online, having that online visibility is only going to grow in its importance, especially as the competition does the same thing. And now it's not like, back in the old days, you can have a website and you're already ahead of the competition by years. Now it's like, if you're not on, it's not just a matter of being online, it's being present and active and available online as well now. And adapting to shifts in consumer behavior. And I think as a marketer myself, that's one of the more difficult things. It doesn't matter what business you're in, is having the flexibility to adapt and react to the changes in technology, to the changes in the market and things like that. And it's difficult and it's frustrating because you wish that you could be more proactive as opposed to reactive. But when there's a lot of things that are outside of your control in that sense, having the ability to be flexible and adopt these new technologies and be that front runner can really, really have a positive impact on your business when you think agile, when you think things from more of an agile perspective. Now, why Google Business Messages? Why is that the answer? And that shift is something, and this consumer shift is something that we've seen on our end at Birdeye as well. Consumers are looking to get their questions answered quickly and answered by a trustworthy source. So how does business messages fit into this consumer behavior shift?
Absolutely. Well, Google is really perfectly positioned to help. To recap a little bit about our role that we play in terms of business discovery and engagement, again, about 70% of online experiences start with a search engine. And we already have some really helpful tools and solutions as a part of the surface. When you think about the ability to be able to click to call or the maps button that shows up in the search results, these have helped to drive roughly 2 billion monthly connections between businesses and consumers in the US alone. And the addition of business messages, which will be found alongside these solutions, will help to further fuel that engagement. So, adding the messaging button to the search results is really our way of leaning into this trend of being able to help businesses, small and large alike, be able to connect and engage. I think also a little bit of it is when you think about the surfaces. So it's there across Google search, it's there across maps. It can also be present across your own channels, such as You can create a QR code. You can have this directly on your website. And so we're going to bridge all of that together and put a nice bow on it also by helping you to leverage automation and human connection as well.
I love that. And when I think about it, it kind of just makes sense, right? It's people prefer to message over call because when they're having a busy schedule, they can't sit on the phone or sit on hold for hours on end or forever. And essentially, it's cool that you guys at Google are doing this because you're just making it easier for businesses and consumers to connect and do business. And you're helping consumers get the answers that they need from the businesses that they want those answers from faster and easier, and you're allowing businesses to connect with consumers faster and easier. And so I think it just, like you said, adding that human connection between a business and a consumer can really help develop relationships, establish customer loyalty. It adds more of a kind of a personality behind a brand when you can message directly with someone as if you're texting a friend. It's a really, really cool kind of approach to it. And I think and honestly, it just makes sense. It's like, why shouldn't you be able to message somebody directly from Google? And so I think that's great. Now, because of the shift in the way that consumers are buying and researching, and Google is in a great position to address this shift and further provide the best possible information for its users. But on the flip side of this, how should agencies implement business messages? What value can it bring to them on that side?
That's a great question. And really a simple way of thinking about how to leverage business messages for your business is really through our entry points. That's like the easy way to think, how can I turn this on for my business? So one of the entry points is Google Maps. So this is to help drive, traffic to your brick and mortar locations. The next is through the phone app. So if you do have a phone number for your business, a customer service line for your business, you can use this as an entry point, and it does help with customer service calls. So when they get ready to call your number, they then also have the option to chat directly, and they can see how long will it take on your customer service line versus knowing that the chat is going to be instant. So it's a really cool feature. Also present across Google search. This is another great use case for customer service calls and call deflection. It can also assist with acquisition strategies. Our newest entry point is search ads. So this one is really exciting. When you think about the Google ads that you're already running on Google, you're able to add this as an additional campaign type. So then it's able to complement your existing lead gen and acquisition strategies. And one really great way to use this is for your most important user journeys. Like, what is the bread and butter of your business, and being able to run campaigns specifically for that customer journey. And then another that I've mentioned is along your owned channels. So being able to have the chat functionality directly on your website, creating a QR code. And this also can help assist with call deflection.
And this is, like I was saying earlier, like having the ability to have that connection with the consumer as from the business perspective, whether it be from your website, your Google Maps, search, and all those other ones. It just makes it easier, I think, having that open communication. And I think this is a football term, but the best ability is availability. And I think as a business, if you're available and you can be messaged, called, sent a letter, whatever it may be, if you can offer as many different communication channels and methods as possible so that there is no barrier to entry for your consumers, the better. And so something that we touched on a little earlier is that consumers are moving more towards messaging with brands because they want those quick answers to their questions. It's cutting down on that hold time, things like that. But you and I are talking right now, and we're getting a lot said and accomplished over this conversation. So wouldn't talking to someone over the phone technically be faster? What have you seen regarding messaging versus calling?
Yeah, so for more complex or advanced types of conversations, a conversation, that human connection will never be beat. Absolutely. And that's why there's the ability through the business messages to have a lot of the conversation automated. But then when it does need that human connection, it can be passed off to a live agent. But really, one of the benefits that we've seen is with call deflection. So if a user is given the option to make a phone call or have a chat session for some of their more we could say upper funnel or softball toss questions, then we're going to see them really prefer to chat. And this is a great way to be able to qualify leads, help them have some of their questions answered, some of that clarity that they're missing, have that clarified through an automated stream. So this is really great way for businesses that are interested in cost savings to be able to engage and save time through call deflection. And we actually have a number of case studies where we are able to share, some of the success that we've seen with call deflection, like the National Bank of Australia. They served 3 times as many customers via chat than they were using phone calls. We also have Videotron. They were able to cut their average handle time by 50%. So the idea with call deflection is that you're not taking away the human connection, but you're waiting until the right moment to have the human connection, because we want our minds and our creativity and our intelligence to really be spent on the more complex and advanced conversations. Another area would be, really the ability to accelerate purchase or those care moments. So again, when someone has a need or they need more clarity, they're going to seek like those really quick answers. And so when you're wanting to remove that friction, you're wanting to make it more seamless, and some of those like FAQ type of softball questions, that's where the chat functionality really comes into play. And then when you need to do a deep dive into some specifics, that's when you're able to have the conversations.
That's awesome. So I'm looking in the attendee chat. I'm seeing some awesome engagement. Everybody is networking, saying hello. We've got people from all over the country, I think. I don't know if we have any international. I know we have one from Canada. So yes, we have an international audience right now, Trista. So that's great. And I think what you were saying is spot on. You being able to have those softball questions, those FAQs, where is, when does the Austin, Texas location open? Or, what services do you guys provide for XYZ? And I think, those softball, those are great. But if you get a lot of those questions, it could be time consuming, and it could take up a lot more, it could take away from maybe more valuable things that you could be doing. And, having that process automated to answer some of those more frequently asked questions can free that up a lot. And the things that you were saying about call deflection and the numbers at those, it was just staggering. And so I think that's a really interesting perspective on that. And I think you're spot on. So moving, kind of within that same realm of thought with automation, and this is something that we at Birdeye, we talk a lot about is automation, whether it's getting more Google reviews, requesting them from your consumers, responding to reviews, anything that you can do to save time and still keep, that positive interaction and that positive experience with the business without having to sacrifice so many man hours is a good thing. And so but one of the things that, I think everybody knows is no two agents, no two agencies, no two businesses are alike. They vary in size, location, services, the market, who they're competing with around their area. You could be an individual insurance agency responsible for your own online presence in your local market, or you could be a large business trying to manage multiple agents across multiple locations all over the country. So how do you approach your Google Business Messages strategy if you're a solo agent or a national brand with hundreds of locations? Well, the answer is, regardless of which of those buckets you fall into, the answer is automation. Trista, how does automation play a role in Google? You touch on it a little bit by answering some of the, it can help answer some of those FAQs and things like that. But really, how does it play a role in Google Business Messages? Like, what is kind of its fullest extent?
Yeah. So what we found is that automation is becoming more real and accessible from a mass market perspective. It's no longer just for the largest businesses globally. With business messages, individual agents our small business owners are able to take advantage of automation, which is really amazing because it's not just for the big players anymore, it's
Mhm.
for everyone. And there are a lot of commonalities between the large multi-location businesses and our individual agents when you think about how to use automation. When you think about a contact center, you might sometimes think about a large business and they follow scripts and there's a lot of information. But our small business owners also have a lot of information that they need to be able to share or answer questions with their customers as well. And this is when automation comes into play. You're able to automate and really customize your conversation flow using automation. Another great thing is that automation doesn't get tired. There's no turnover with automation. So it's going to be able to continuously learn and improve based on the way it's interacting with your users. And you're able to, of course, come in and optimize those conversations. So if you take your FAQs and you turn it into this really amazing chat conversation that flows and helps you qualify leads, you're then able to turn it over to a human interaction when needed.
Mhm. And I think that's great, especially when I think about it, is if you're an individual agent and you are, as if you're by yourself trying to run your own operation, if you're just doing your own thing, trying to manage your online presence and then also trying to run your business and talk to people face to face or get things done or paperwork or whatever it may be when you're running your own operation, there's a lot to it. I think having the kind of that peace of mind of knowing that you have an extra set of hands in a sense with the artificial intelligence, AI kind of automation process, being able to, like you just said, qualify those leads a little bit better, start those conversations, answer the easy questions without you having to worry about it. It can save you. It allows you to, like I said, it just gives you an extra set of hands online, essentially, which is really cool. And then on the flip side of that, if you're a multi-location nationwide company and with thousands of locations, having that automation actually is super, super beneficial because it keeps things consistent across your entire business when it comes to how you talk with consumers and leads and potential customers online. Being able to have that consistent voice is really important for establishing your brand and your brand presence and your, who you are as a brand and as a business. And so that consistency of voice is extremely crucial. This is something that we talk about a lot at Birdeye, but it's actually because Birdeye allows you to manage multiple business messages conversations from multiple agents all in one place, regardless of how many different locations you have. And it's not just with business messages either, actually. I think now is a great time to talk about that real fast. And we'll do that by showing you guys how to maximize Google Business Messages. And essentially, the way you can do that is using the Birdeye Inbox. It enables you to receive and respond to messages from text, Google Business Messages, direct messages from Facebook, Instagram, email, voicemail, all in one inbox. And it doesn't matter how many locations you have or how many businesses or where you're located, you can have all of this in one easy to navigate inbox. It also offers a one-stop shop for tracking every customer interaction that you have through the inbox. So that means you can also view and respond to your reviews, your survey responses, referrals, leads, video chat. It's all within this nice unified inbox, which is really cool. And it may seem like it's almost too much in one, but the way that we have it laid out allows you to navigate it easily. And so when you're responding to messages, you can actually, and goes back to what we were saying with the automation, you can have custom response templates, and you can also have custom response templates for your automated responses so that you don't, because I'm sure you've seen it maybe, I see it mostly when it comes to reviews because that's more public. But whenever people have kind of the automated responses for the reviews and it's the same response over and over and over again to every review, it kind of ruins the kind of that genuine feeling that it's supposed to provide when you respond to a review. So having those customizable automated templates so that it doesn't look like a robot's responding just helps kind of further that value just a little bit more. And so you can also assign conversations to specific individuals. So let's say someone messages you on Google Business Messages about a specific location or a problem that they're having. For you as the kind of the main master of the inbox, you can divert those people to the right employees so that they can get their answers, or they can get their questions answered correctly or in the best possible way from the right person. And so that's something that I've always thought was a really cool thing. And, this goes back to even with reviews. Like if you were to get a 1-star review for a location in Dallas, Texas, you can actually flag it and send an alert to the manager of that location specifically immediately so that they can jump on it and fix the issue. And it just allows you to really stay on top of this stuff and really get a better grasp of your online reputation from a holistic standpoint, and also just from a direct one-to-one conversation standpoint through Google Business Messages. So that's, and when I think about maximizing your Google Business Messages, I think about it using Birdeye, because this is what allows you to have those automated custom response templates. It allows you to manage everything else on top of it and just fit it nicely into your whole strategy when it comes to your online communication with potential customers. And I think when it comes to this sort of thing, this is just kind of like the cream of the crop in a way. It's hard to explain because it just makes so much sense to me. I'm too far inside. I'm become blind to it. I need to step outside of Birdeye for a second and look at it. But just the ability to manage all of that in one place, it's such a time saver. And I think the bigger that your business gets, the more locations you have, being able to manage 1,000 different locations, 1,000 different Google Business profiles, messages coming in from all of those locations for all different sorts of things, and being able to manage all of those FAQs, automate it automatically, and really begin to use Google Business Messages in your business profile and really the whole suite of the Google surfaces to maximize your online presence. And it's just a no-brainer. It makes so much sense to me. I think it's just one of those things that every business should be implementing. And like you said earlier, like the automated stuff, the artificial intelligence, that's not just for the big dogs anymore. Like even the one location mom and pop shops can utilize automation now. And it's such, it's just a cool time that we live in to be able to do that. Can you imagine, can you imagine 10 years ago, 15 years ago saying, yeah, just about every local business can now use artificial intelligence to market their business. It's just crazy. So we've talked about this in theory, and you've mentioned some success stories, and that's what I want to dig into next. So can you tell us some of the success stories or maybe some case studies of how business messages is being used in the real world?
Absolutely. So with business messages, we have we're multi-vertical, from retail to auto to financial services. So that's what I'll share with you all here. So HDFC, they are the largest bank in India and top 10 globally. And with business messages, they are able to provide 24/7 access to their tools, their services, and information, along with easy access to live agents, which is amazing. So through business messages, they answer over 40,000 queries a month, and they've actually begun to run our business messages ads. So through this solution, they were able to really drive deep engagement with prospective home buyers, many of whom have become incremental, high quality leads, which that's very important in financial services. And on average, they have about 1,300 leads per month. And for any of our ads folks, they're seeing a 13.5 click-through rate on their business messages ads, which is that's
wow,
awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. And I'm looking at this slide now, and it's unfortunate because we had a really cool animation where that big white phone is supposed to be. There's some stuff supposed to scroll and look really nice, but it's not working. So just everybody imagine some really cool stuff happening on that phone. Let's take a look at the next success story. Can you tell us a little more about this one?
Absolutely. So I spoke a little bit about the National Bank of Australia. They were able to increase their efficiency by 3x, which is amazing. So they actually launched business messages amid the pandemic when they were experiencing extremely high customer service call volumes. One of their execs shared that they were receiving as many calls in 1 week as they typically would in 1 year. So they were in dire need of a solution. So with business messages, in just a few short months, when we did this case study, they were able to serve 10,000 customers. 80% of their queries were answered in chat. So that's like 80% containment, meaning only about 20% went over to live agents. And again, they increased their efficiency by 3x, which during the pandemic, that's huge.
Wow. And that's actually really interesting because, whenever we were first going through this, when we were kind of going through what we were wanting to talk about, one of the things that I thought about, it's something that we touched on, which is, having that automated chat with the business messages allows you to get those FAQs and those short, softball questions answered quickly and automatically without having to use all those people hours, and you can use the robot hours instead on that. But when I first heard that, I was like, okay, but really, how often does a question come in where it can be answered by a chat? Or, how often, I feel like whenever I reach out to, or when I'm messaging a business or I'm calling a business, it's because I can't find the simple answer and I need to go further and deeper into it. But from looking at these numbers of 80% of customer questions were resolved in business messages, that's incredible. And so I think that also goes to show how powerful that artificial intelligence and that automation is to be able to handle that that high, percentage of the questions that are coming in. And so so whenever we were going through this and I looked at this one, it blew my mind because I was like, no way, 80% of customer questions were resolved in business messages. Whereas and I thought they were going to be I thought that number was just going to be lower just because of the type of questions that people would be asking. But, I shouldn't have doubted the artificial intelligence. That's incredible.
I mean, when you think about it,
go ahead.
Yeah, when you think about it, our behavior is that we do want those really quick answers. When we have a question, our first thought is, let me look this up. Let me be able to find this. And so it works along the same way. Instead of just browsing Google to find your answers, it's saying, let's go directly to the source. Let me find out from HDFC about their home loans. Let me find out from National Bank of Australia about how to open a new account. Let me find out from my insurance agent directly about their different types of insurance. So it helps provide them with quick answers, but directly from the source.
Yeah, and I think that's great. One of the things I've done a few webinars, that center around Google and local search. And one of the things that a lot, like the SEO experts tell me, is Google wants to provide the best possible information or the most relevant information for that user's query from a trustworthy source. And, they don't, because obviously it's like if, you're providing bad search results, people won't use your search engine. So providing the highest quality, the most accurate and trustworthy information for the search query is, to me, a big priority. And so, like you said, being able to go directly to the source and get your answers from the source is the most trustworthy, most reliable information source that you can get. And so having the business messages allows you to do that and get the correct answers from the right people, from the business that you actually are looking at. Just gives that extra level of accessibility between consumers and businesses that I think this world is just moving towards. Now it's not so much like I'm just looking for a product, but I'm looking for an experience. I want to be able to message a brand and connect and get my questions answered quickly, whether it be something simple that can be answered by a bot or something more complicated that will need a deeper conversation. So that's I could sit and dissect these success stories all day because I think there's so many different little aspects to it that seem to contribute to the success. But I want to go ahead and move forward because I do want to get to the Q&A. And, actually, I want to stop and bring one of the questions that we received earlier because I thought it was really good. And someone had submitted this question earlier, and they said, most companies use a landline number. How does text messaging and texting work if they're using a landline number? And believe it or not, which is really cool, you can convert your landline to a mobile number essentially so that you can text from that number, and it can still be your landline. That none of that would change, but you can actually make that number textable, and that's something that Birdeye can actually help with. So if that's something that you've thought about, or if we were talking about this, you're like, well, I don't even have a number that people can message me from. We just have our landline. You can actually convert that into a textable number, which is really, really cool. So I just wanted to bring that up. But also, please don't be shy. Remember to submit your questions. We're going to jump in the Q&A in just a second. But now let's go ahead and cover some tips and best practices. So what can people do whenever they like, so let's say people are implementing these agencies and these financial services businesses, they're wanting to start with Google Business Messages. And let's say that they did it. They set it up this morning and they joined the webinar and now they're like, okay, well, how can I use it? How can I make it the best that it can be? So let's go over some tips and some best practices. Alrighty. So Trista, let's break these down. So so we talked about this and these are some of the tips that you had provided. And the first one is personalize your messages.
Absolutely. So this is pretty much like where the fun part comes in. You've mentioned a lot, Justin, about giving your chat experience a voice, making sure it resonates with your brand. And a way to do that is to personalize your messages, but especially your welcome message. You know, you don't want to come in with just, hi, how can I help you? You want to give a little bit more of a personality because first impressions really do matter, and you want to ensure that it's going to represent your brand's voice. And so that's something that we partner with Birdeye to educate them on those best practices, and then they in turn can work with all of their clients on what does a brand voice mean for a chat experience. The next one is around your FAQ. So if you're thinking about how can I get started easily on business messages, I don't know what type of conversation flow. And actually you do. You already have probably FAQs somewhere on your website, or you're familiar with those frequently asked questions. And so building out your first experience can very easily be started by focusing on what are those top questions that people are asking most frequently that are taking you away from the job that you really need and want to be doing. Up next, when to be able to respond quickly. So when a human agent is needed, you want to, of course, be able to respond quickly. If it's outside of your working hours or your response hours, just be sure to indicate that. If you want to be able, or you do want to be able to manage expectations around availability and when a consumer can expect to hear back from you. And then also remembering to utilize the automation. That's how you're going to be able to deliver on your customers' expectations for simplicity, speed, and convenience.
Yeah, and I think the respond quickly and including your working hours is very important because that's just setting expectations. If someone chats you at 2 in the morning and they don't know that it's either a automated response or they don't know that there aren't real people operating at that time for whatever reason, I don't know. But having that established, like, hey, we're off, but we can respond to you at 8 a.m. tomorrow. But if you have any other more simple questions, we've got the bot, whatever it may be, to kind of set that expectation so that people don't get frustrated when they're not getting their answers, that when they're not getting the answers that they need immediately. Setting that expectation can alleviate a lot of frustration. Because I know that if I'm asking a question, but I know I can't really expect a fully detailed, answer until the morning, that's fine. That's because I have that expectation. And then also responding quickly like you said, consumers are wanting that fast, simple responses. They're wanting something immediate. It's supposed to help. It's all part of making the communication process easier. So if you don't respond quickly, that defeats the entire purpose of it. So having the automation to respond to those questions quickly and maybe figure out what exactly that person is looking for to maybe connect them to a human or, answer the question entirely and not even have to worry about it, is huge. It's huge. Just having that rapid response rate can be so valuable, because if someone submits a question to a business for financial services and they ask a question and no one responds, they're going to go to a competitor who maybe will answer their question. So you don't want to be the last to respond. You want to be the first. So before we jump into Q&A, I wanted to go quickly over the Birdeye and Google private API partnership that we have, because it's actually not just with Google Business Messages, but it's with a whole slew of different things. And so the first one that we have is with your Google Business profile. And this one is really cool because Birdeye is able to connect with all of your Google Business profiles, no matter how many you have, from all of your locations all over the world. And you're able to manage and edit and ensure that all of the data across all of those profiles is correct from one simple single place, as opposed to having 1,000 different Google Business profiles all over the world, you can have them located directly on your dashboard from one place for an easier management of it. The next is we've got with your Google reviews, which I've touched on a little bit, and that is essentially it allows you to run your entire review management strategy pretty much on autopilot. It connects to your CRM and your equivalent system and sends out automated review requests to your consumers right after an appointment or purchase. And thanks to our direct integration with Google's private API, reviews appear instantly the moment your customer hits submit. And the automated review requests, that's the important part to me, because I mean, if you go back and you listen and you go and you watch the 4-part series that we do on reviews to revenue, something that I say in every single webinar, I think I probably say it 5 times in every single webinar, is if you want more Google reviews of your business, you need to be asking all of your customers for a review. And the more customers you have, the more locations you have, the more difficult that is to stay consistent on. So having those automated review requests sent out so that you don't even have to think about it, that you know that all of your customers are getting a request for a review, which results in more reviews of your business, higher star ratings, and it actually helps, negate the negative reviews, because now a negative review doesn't affect your average nearly as much. The next is with Google messaging, which we've talked about, so I don't think I need to go into another slew of reasons and things like that. So I'll just keep moving. But the next is with your Google Knowledge panel, and that's where Birdeye can actually showcase the review count and your star ratings from over 150 different review sites in the Google Knowledge panel. So it's not even just your Google reviews, but it's all of the reviews from all of the different sites, because it's all connected to your Birdeye, which is connected to your Knowledge panel, which allows Birdeye to pull all of that in. So you'll see that information on the box that appears in the top right of the corner of your search results. And I think that's something that's more of an automatically generated thing. But if you have that implementation with Birdeye and your Google Business Profile, you'll be able to see those reviews from all over the internet. After that, we have an integration with Google's advanced analytics. With Birdeye's Google Analytics and web-based integration, businesses can actually track visitor interaction, their insights, their journeys on the website, and more. We also do an integration with Google Maps. And this is a cool one because it actually enhances your business profile, because it makes it easier for your customers to find you. It ensures your information is accurate because you can control all of the different map locations of your business from one place, because that accuracy is one of the most important. Like for me, I use Google Maps as my local business search engine. I don't necessarily go into normal Google search when I'm looking for a business around me. I normally go into Maps because I like to search by looking at what's physically furthest or closest to. So having a strong Google Maps presence where your reviews, your photos, your hours, if you're a restaurant, being able to order online, and having those adjusted hours. Like we just had Thanksgiving and I was looking for a place to grab some drinks for the family. And I had to check Google, and there were some businesses that had their Thanksgiving hours already updated so that I knew when they were going to open or whenever they were going to close. And I wish I looked sooner because I went to the first place and it was closed. So next time I'm definitely going to Google Maps first before I do that. And lastly, we have an integration with Google Seller Ratings, which is more on the paid side. And this actually allows people to see your star rating and your reviews on your ads. And this is shown to have a really, really big and positive impact on your conversion rates and the success of your ads, because having those stars visible it's like right under the blue headline of the search ad, and having those stars there, whether it's 4 or 5 stars, just adds that little bit of extra credibility to your business, and it actually helps increase those conversion rates. And so that's kind of the whole suite of what we have with our partnership with Google. It's been really, really good so far, and I'm hoping we can further that and continue to, help businesses just have a better presence on Google using Birdeye. And so now, without further ado, let's get into the questions. And I think we've got a few in here. We've got some really good ones. So let's see what we got. Let's see. Cool. Okay, here we go. Can we have emails for info and marketing all come into the inbox? So just not social media, but also multiple email addresses into the inbox. Yes, we actually can. So we can send emails from the inbox and receive emails as well to a specific email ID from the Birdeye inbox. But we, when it comes, a lot of that kind of stuff can be on a case-by-case basis, depending on what you're actually really wanting to do. So if you're wanting to learn more, maybe specific to your situation, I highly recommend talking to somebody about like what you're looking to do and what your situation is and how you communicate with customers, and see if that is something that could work for your business. Someone asked, can we get a recording of this webinar? Yes. As I mentioned earlier, right when we got started, at the conclusion of this webinar, you will be getting a link to the recording as soon as that recording is processed. I think it probably takes 1 day. So you can expect an email in your inbox tomorrow with a link to the recording. And let's see, what else do we got here? Is it possible to embed Google Chat on your website? I think it is. Tristan, can you confirm?
Yeah, that is one of our entry points. So if you're interested in having business messages directly on your website, that's something that you're able to do.
Wow, that's awesome. And so I think that's all the questions we have right now. We still have a few minutes, so I'm gonna wait and see if anyone else has any other questions. But thank you, Trista, so much for joining us today. I think this has been a great conversation. I think that some of the insights that you've provided, especially with those success stories, to have that real tangible proof that Google Business Messages is an absolutely necessary tool that any business of any industry, but especially the ones in that financial services, the insurance industry, where they're, where the main goal is like, we need to have conversations with people. We need to start those conversations as quickly as possible. We want to be able to answer those questions as quickly as possible. Providing quotes, doing things like that, being able to develop those relationships with people is absolutely crucial. All right, we got another one. And let's see here. Let's see awesome. And then the last thing is, and I think this one might be better suited for you, Trista, and this is more around the security and the verification of messages and things like that. Is there some sort of safety realm, or what are the elements when it comes to people's personal info being safe, things like that? Because I know especially in the financial services industry and insurance and things like that, you're talking financials, you're talking money. What sort of security does Google Business Messages have?
Yeah, for sure. And actually with this question, I can sort of take it in two lenses. First is around data security. So when you think about business messages and chatting through a messaging channel, it sits on top of, the Google platform. I could do a deep dive into like data security, the encryption flows, and all of that stuff. And if that's something that anyone is interested in, it is live on our business messages website, our entire data security and info security documentation. We're super transparent about that, so I can share that link. So in terms of encryption and data security, it is encrypted, and there are a lot of data pillars that go into maintaining safety. In terms of, is it a qualified lead, which I think this question might point a little bit more to, building it out great conversational flows, where if someone is investing this much time in a conversation, that back and forth engagement, then they're actually a qualified lead, or they're actually someone that you should invest a little bit of time in. So ensuring that the conversational flow is one that would help ensure that the engagement is one that's authentic.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So it looks like we are near our time. But before we go, be sure to check out the resources in that related content widget that I mentioned earlier. We've got some great pieces of content that you guys can access, whether that's the 4-part series, the Reviews to Revenue Masterclass series that we put together for you. Be sure to sign up for next month's webinar with our SEO experts, Steve Wiedemann and Ben Fisher, as they provide their insights as to what we can expect in 2023. And we're going to take a look back at 2022 and just see how much the world of local search and online search has evolved over time. But thank you so much, Trista, for your time. I had a blast working on this and planning this and doing this discussion with you. Yeah. I look forward to talking to you again soon. But with that being said, thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, the recording of the session will be made available on the Birdeye website, and you'll get a link to it in your emails as well. So if there's someone in that whether it's in your company, whether it's someone that a friend that you think would find value in today's discussion, feel free to pass it along to them. But until then, everybody have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you next time. We'll see you next year, actually, in 2023. Thanks, guys.